Welcome to the Hoops Rehab Show on a Monday night. How you doing, Eric?
Doing pretty good, man. It's been a little bit, but doing all right. How's everything with you?
Yeah, man. We've been off for a little bit, and there's a couple reasons for it. Can I get into in this show? But before we get into it, just want to introduce ourselves again. I am the Game Injury Doc, aka Dr. Evan Jeffries. On my right is Eric B. Mack. We are the host of the Hoops Rehab Show. You can find us at our YouTube, the Hoops Rehab Show, and then also when we upload the pod, you can get that wherever you get your podcast at the Hoops Rehab Show. We are a live show, so please interact on comments in the YouTube chat or the Twitter chat, and we'll try to answer it throughout the show. We got a big show tonight. We're going to be talking about the Nikola Jokic injury. We're going to be talking about the Lakers and their downward spiral. We're going to be talking about Austin Reaves' injury, a couple of the big things, and Eric Spurs, because he's been talking about them being for real. So we're going to talk about the Spurs as well, getting into a lot of things. But before we get started, to explain a little bit about why we've been off for the last weeks is I had somebody very close to me, obviously the closest person in my life. My mother passed away unexpectedly. So it's one of the things why I've been off. It's been a lot. If you guys have ever had a loved one pass away, it's a unreal feeling, a feeling of numbness, a feeling of constant sadness. Something that, we don't wish to ever go through. It's one of those things that I've had to go through and expect to go through. But I'm slowly getting through it. And it'll always be there. But Eric?
Yeah, no, it's for obvious reasons. We put a pause for a couple weeks, with the passing of your mom. And so, I mean, obviously the fans out there, the folks watching us, like, don't know, too much kind of about our relationship. I know in the beginning, the first show, we talked about how we've been friends for a long time, but Evan's mother, she was someone that I've, known for like 25, plus, or 27 plus years or so. She was my family's doctor, before I met Evan, which is crazy. I remember, so if you guys don't know, we met freshman year of high school. And so I remember before starting, my mom being like, oh, Dr. English's son, she told me that he's going to be going to Paraclete too. And so it was like just crazy, right? Like I was kind of like looking out for you, and it, didn't know who you were. And I think finally, like maybe basketball or something, we kind of met. And so the rest is history. And so like from having sleepovers at your house to just, doing a lot of like cool things with your mom, and, her living, where my mom, is living now. It's just crazy, and obviously very sad. And so we're all thinking about you. If there's anything that can kind of be a distraction, hopefully a show like this can be for yourself. And so I thought, and I think you thought too, it was important to get back on, not to move on, because that'll never ever happen, but just for a little bit of normalcy. Obviously, she was a great woman. We'll never, forget her, and will forever be missed.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I appreciate the words. After you've known her forever. She's been my inspiration. Why I got into being a physical therapist. I've always done medicine with her. She's one of the true groundbreakers. A doctor from the 70s, woman, African American. So there wasn't a lot of female doctors, especially African American doctors at that time. So she broke a lot of barriers. She'll always be inspiration. She'll always be with me. And we're definitely dedicating this show to her. And I appreciate you guys just allowing me to have this platform to to talk about her. So thank you guys. Bear with me. I am trying to get through the show. I've been better, obviously, as the days go on, but at the same time, it's always just there constantly. But the distraction of sports always helps. And that's why we want to come on and really start talking about sports, in particular, our terrible Lakers. All right, you get this cracking?
Yeah, this despite kind of what's been going on, we always can throw a little text at each other about how the Lakers are doing. It's just kind of obviously it's a very small minor thing compared to what's going on in life, but it's obviously a team that's been a passion of ours, and we've been following them since we were little kids, so it's kind of hard to let go. But yeah, I'm ready to definitely deep dive into kind of their issues and their injuries for sure.
All right, so Eric, where do we start? I know it's been a couple weeks of just not so good of play by Lakers. At one point, they were they lost 3 in a row. They've been 5 out of 5. Won 5, lost 5, and then having the game on Christmas Day in front of everybody. Everybody's watching. It's Christmas. It's the NBA. And to pretty much get blown out by the Rockets was something else. Obviously, JJ wasn't too happy, wasn't too thrilled in the press conference. But what do you think of the Lakers recently and struggles?
Man, it's interesting, just an interesting like part of the season because it's kind of stretched out with like not so many games, right? With like the in-season or the NBA Cup. So that was a little weird, just some extra time off than you normally would have. So this digression, if you will, seems kind of like long, but it hasn't been that many games. I mean, at the end of the day, if we were sitting here October, like 21st or whenever the show started or whenever the season started, we probably would take a 20-10 through 30 games, right? I mean, if you think about it, you're through 60 or 40-20. Right. And, you got basically 22 games to probably pick up 10 to 12 more wins to get to that 50 win mark. And so, it's not so much the record. It's just how it's been. Defense has just been a huge letdown. I think when you look at it, they got 20 wins. You only could play who's on your schedule, right? But they have definitely. I was kind of taking a deep dive. They've really beaten up on the likes of Utah, Dallas, the Clippers one game, Kings, Pelicans, right? And so that's how you kind of have a really good record is you do beat up on those teams. But I want to say I looked about 14, if not 15 of their 20 wins are against teams under 500. So take that for how you'd like it. And so it's getting a little tougher. The game, as you mentioned, against Houston was kind of like that last straw. It was kind of coming to a collision course, or if you will, like I felt like it was like this slowly kind of, like a downhill. And that was just downhill, crash and burn. And so I feel like Lakers have those kind of clunkers though on Christmas. I don't know if you kind of recall, it just seems like there's a lot of years where Lakers just, for whatever reason, that happens to them. So I don't know if you chalk it up to that. I don't know what you really chalk it up to. There's injuries, there's LeBron coming back, but obviously, a lot on my mind about it. But what are your thoughts? Do you think it's something internal? Do you think it's something that they can fix? Do you think it's just a product of an 82 game season? You're going to have some ups and downs. Where do you see this Laker team? What's the trajectory?
Eric, can you fix a defense that after 30 games is currently tied with the LA Clippers? Mm-hmm. And then below that is Sacramento, New Orleans, Utah, and Washington. And above you is Charlotte. Can you fix that and become a contender? I think that's the biggest issue that they have, obviously. I don't think it takes rocket scientists to figure that out. Defensively, They are flawed. They're tied for 25th in the league right now. And I love to say it's a sample size, but it's almost half the season. You got 30 games, right? Now, you can look at it two ways. They're still 20-10 with that, which is shocking, right? To be probably the worst team on defense. And when you look at those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other teams that have named are the bottom of the bottom on both the East and the West Coast. So that could be positive, right?
Yeah.
But that's something that's not going to, if you don't correct that, you're not going into the playoffs and you're going to do anything with that type of defense. So I think there's two things, right? Are those players on this roster? I don't think so. And according to Jay Red, he doesn't think so either. Right? So that's it. There's a couple things to solve, right? So then you get Rob Pelinka is, you got to probably likely make some move to get a couple of different players on this roster, and then maybe shop out the guys that you don't feel kind of gel or kind of fit this defensive scheme. Then, as a coach, we got to start figuring out if JJ Redick can really be a defensive coach, like if he can really get these guys to play defense. Because I think offensively, they're number 7 in the NBA offensive rating. I think you are great there. I think he does a great job of designing plays. But can he get this to play hardcore defense? Is that even his style based on how his offensive team is?
Yeah, I mean, it's all great points. I mean, I don't, it's not a big secret that they're struggling defensively. Do they have the personnel? I think there are times when, like, the one time that the Lakers went on a nice stretch was against Houston was when Vanderbilt and Marcus Smart were in the game together, and they just kind of caused havoc, and they brought the lead down to 2 or 3 in that second quarter. I know this was a couple of games ago, but then it just kind of, before the half, it got extended back to double digits. So that being said, I'm not sitting here saying that those guys should play a ton of minutes, because obviously there's some flaws that they have, and there's the injuries and all that. But yeah, I mean, it's so true. It's part of it is the personnel. Part of it is like, do we, have a coach or a staff that can get in a press conference and say all the right things and say we got to start playing defense, but is there like tactical like solutions that are kind of happening or being preached to the squad? I don't know. Can't answer that. Doesn't seem like it. But it's that, and it's the 3-point shooting. So this day and age, that matters. I think when it comes to the playoffs, I think you could muck it up. I think you could, win some kind of hard-nosed games, but I just don't know if Lakers have that. They got to get to the free throw line. I think that's what's been the difference, is they get to the free throw line. So that is the difference of like kind of the 3-point shot. They're getting those, like, obviously, they've been pretty successful, I guess. Seems like from the free throw on the charity strike. But it's I think we talked about it, last show, maybe the show before last, where it's like the Lakers will be in an interesting position where, do they feel they're a guy or two away of really competing and contending, or do they not feel that way? And if they do, they will trade some assets. And if not, they're going to hang on to them. They're going to be like, hey, maybe we can get like a, because they're still in the mix, right, for top 2 or 3 seed. Like, let's roll the dice and let's get a 2 or 3 seed and let's win a round or 2. And, let's see where the chips fall. But I think they do most likely need to do something.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about it before. Really, essentially, only have 2 defenders on this team, and it's Marcus Smart and Jared Vanderbilt. And obviously, Vando was out of the rotation for quite some time, but since he's been back, he's been actually pretty decent. Their record, I wouldn't say is indicative of how he's been playing. They're like 3-3 since he's kind of been back in rotation, but. Yeah. The one thing that you couldn't count on Vando doing before was hitting that corner 3 or just hitting threes in general. And he's actually, did you know he's hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row where he's made a 3?
Oh, so what? I never suspected that.
I love to see that. Like, if he could just be respectful and or people could respect him, I mean, right? If you're making the shot, you at least are a threat on the court. And over the last, 6 games, he's made a 3 every single game, and he's also had 1 game with 3 threes, right? So I think that's something that we can be happy about moving forward. That could thing. Right, he's shooting technically 38% on the season now, and if he can stay somewhere in that 35 to 38 range and play 20 to 25 minutes, I think that be a big factor for the Lakers kind of moving forward. Now, the big question is, DeAndre Ayton can't really play defense, right? I don't want to really put the blame on him, but as your defensive head or defensive center, he's not the ideal defender. He does give you great offense. I think he when you need a bucket, he can get a bucket. Like, he's an offensive threat. But defensively, what do you see with Ayton versus having, like, say, Vando in there at the 5 sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I think we knew that Ayton. By all means, like, I don't think he was like a plus defender. I don't think he was considered awful, right? He was just kind of middle of the pack. But Lakers do need like more of a just the way they're kind of structured and all the other guys they have, in particular when it's LeBron, Reaves, and Luka in there. They kind of just need more of a just guy that's going to do the little things, and don't get me wrong, like he's been pretty good. Yeah, offensively, he's definitely been the best, like center, of course, other than like AD, for example, that they've had in a bit. But yeah, he is who he is. I don't think he's going to just be this bruiser all of a sudden. But yeah, they could definitely use a little bit more of him kind of in the interior, just being somebody down there to contest shots, right? But I just think, I don't know, like LeBron has obviously been a great defender for a lot of his career, but the last quarter of his career, I mean, we know what it is, right? It's just not going to be there on a night to night basis. Luka and Reaves, they're just all three guys, whoever they're guarding, they're going to probably like fly right by them. And I mean, we could pin it on Ayton, but I mean, a little bit has got to be from on that, exterior defense too, man. Like it's just going to just take some rotation tweaks, like you've said, with Vando, Marcus Smart, and then hopefully acquiring someone. But yeah, Ayton, it's been a kind of a mixed bag with Ayton for sure.
Yeah, I think he's okay for what he is, right? I think one of the biggest issues is we don't get any block shots, right? Like, he averages one block a game, just 1.0. And that's our leader in that category. And I think if we don't get anybody that can kind of come off the bench to provide that kind of head of the snake type of defense, I think it'll be a problem. So if it's a priority for me, you would obviously have another center that can actually do a little both, can actually really be a defensive presence. And then obviously getting somebody athletically on the wing, a 3-and-D type of guy, is a must, because we essentially don't have that one-on-one defender besides Marcus Smart, and maybe putting Vando on athletic wings, but I don't think he does as well against those bigger type of athletic wings.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I kind of froze up there a second, but yeah, I think there's a certain players that he can be kind of pretty decent against, but then there's others where his kind of like defensive deficiencies like stick out like a sore thumb, and so again, it's definitely a byproduct of when you got 5 guys out there and, let's say 4 of them are, not, I don't want to say they're not buying into defense, because I don't think it's like a lack of trying. I just think like just maybe don't have the athleticism and just the grit. And, so especially somebody like Luka, who's got to do so much on the offensive end. It takes a toll too. So, hey, 20-10 obviously could be worse. It's just that they've had a bad 10-game stretch or so, or I guess average stretch or so. And, we'll see what happens. And so I hate when like for example, Houston played the Clippers before the Lakers, and then like Clippers beat them. And you're like, oh God, like they're probably not going to lose the 2 in LA. And then Detroit, right? Clippers beat Detroit last night, and then Lakers play Detroit tomorrow. I'm like, oh man, here we go again, right?
You know what that means.
Yeah.
They're going to bring all their max effort against the Lakers tomorrow night. And that's going to be a problem.
It's just how it is. It's like, I was like, oh, hopefully they beat the Clippers, and then, kind of, not that it really should matter, but it in a weird way it does.
Yeah, for sure. And before we kind of get off the Lakers topic, I just wanted to say they are bottom 4 in blocks per game at 4.1 with the actually Denver Nuggets, New Orleans, and Utah Jazz, right? So I guess Denver doesn't really get any blocks either, and they're actually not as good defensively as well, but not as far as low as the Lakers are defensive rating. But that doesn't necessarily mean the end all be all. I mean, Detroit's number 1 in blocks, Dallas is number 2, right? Yeah. Not saying that has to be a category that's you got to be the top, but you got to be somewhere in that middle to 8 to 12 range. Kind of be like, all right, this team is actually a contender team, in my opinion. If you're not playing, it kind of shows that you don't have any athletic bigs that can actually get people at the rim or anything like that. Even though this league is more of a shooting league where you're shooting a lot of threes, so that's probably why a lot of that is down. But just in general, I think it would be smart if they were up a little higher in the category.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you look at a team like Denver, who is just not up there on defense, and they're not really a big-time three-point shooting team either. And I know we're going to talk about Denver and Jokic a little later, but at the same time, they have like the ultimate, equalizer to kind of mask all that in the Joker, which the Lakers just, they have Luka, but it's just kind of different levels to it, right? And so, it just shows you that it could happen. It's a little bit of an outlier, but you want to be more so at least like middle of the pack on defense. We're not asking to be top 5. If you kind of could just stick with that offense productivity you have going now and move up to 15, 16 defensively, I think that would, would move mountains really. And so that's kind of what the Lakers, I think, got to focus on, is just getting a little bit better on defense, a little bit better every day. And so we'll see what happens. But as we've talked about, it might have to come with personnel change.
Hey, they beat the Sacramento Kings the other night. Does that do anything for you, Eric?
First of all, I know how terrible they are, and I just for some reason didn't realize who wasn't playing either. So I was like, okay, Sacramento, even though they're bad, they got some guys,
don't act like Zach LaVine is. Are you talking about Zach LaVine? Don't do this, Eric.
I know.
Don't do this, Eric. Come on, man. And let me get something straight with the Kings. Are they doing? Why is Westbrook and DeMar DeRozan there? What are you doing at this point? You're starting those two.
Westbrook's having a good season. I think at this point,
I'm just saying, you just got to blow this whole thing up. And you traded De'Aaron Fox. Obviously, that was a huge mistake, or whatever you want to say. They've traded all these players overall, so I think that at some point they just got to, at the deadline, they should be complete fire hose, getting rid of everybody, and just trying to rebuild that roster and get as many draft picks as they can get at this point.
Yeah. I think, fortunately for them, they're rebuilding before they could even really get things going. They had a promising season a few years back, and since then it's been all downhill. Traded De'Aaron Fox. I mean, they could have, obviously we're all saying they could have, shoulda, coulda, woulda gotten a little bit more from San Antonio for that in that deal. But they probably were just wanting to get out of his contract and not have to, sign him to a super mega deal and things like that. And so teams like, small market, Sacramento, teams take advantage of those teams because they're really just trying to get under, the cap and not trying to pay these guys. And they take little to nothing for them. And so it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So if you guys have any comments on the Lakers, hit us up on the YouTube chat or the Twitter chat. Let us know what your thoughts are, or any other NBA related news. Let us know. We'll try to get to that before we get out of here. All right. So we want to switch subjects a little bit to the unfortunate news with injuries. Lakers have been hit by the injury bug. Obviously started the year without LeBron. So that's been, he missed about 14 games to start the year. So they've just been pretty much, LeBron gets back. They barely play together. Austin was out some games with the calf injury. Luka was out some games with certain ailments. They finally get back together, and Austin Reaves re-aggravates the same calf that he injured 2 weeks ago, right? So the biggest concern now, obviously, he is out for the next month at least. Usually when they say reevaluated in 4 weeks, that means see you in about 6 weeks, because he's going to get reevaluated. They're going to say whether or not the actual partial tear of the calf, which is what agreed to is healed. If it's not healed, then it's going to extend his timeline. If it's healed, he still has to ramp up, right? So there's usually a ramp up period of 1 to 2 weeks. So be honest, the fastest he probably makes it back is 5 weeks, and that's probably like a long shot, and it's going to be more like in that 6 week range, I would say. And 8 week would be kind of that max, right? Like if he just needs a little bit more time, he's pretty much out for 2 months. So moving forward with the Lakers over the next month, what do you see potentially with how they're going to act? Number one, how are they going to play with their schedule if you've taken a look at it over the next 10, 15 games? And then will they make a move, essentially, because they need to have something before he actually comes back?
Yeah, a couple of things keep in mind that come to mind is, so it's kind of a bummer because I think this means that Austin Reaves will probably not be an all-star. And so we thought that he would.
Yep, that was the biggest bummer right there.
Yeah, we thought perhaps he would, make his first all-star team, and he kind of was like on pace for that, in my opinion. And so the way you're looking at it is like, not only will he not be an all-star, but he's probably going to be back around maybe after the all-star break at this point. If you're looking at like that 6 week mark, that is, mid-February, right? And so I'm looking at the schedule. You tell me in January, I'm going to just read the games. It's not terribly bad, but let's see. So they got home games against Detroit, Memphis back-to-back at home. Got New Orleans at San Antonio's tough. Got home against the Bucks, Sacramento, Atlanta, Charlotte, Portland, Toronto, at Denver. We'll see how that looks with injuries now. Clippers, Dallas, Chicago, Washington, right? I mean, look, obviously you got to go out there and play, and Lakers have done well against these kind of teams. But I think for Austin Reaves being out in January, I mean, it doesn't, again, got to go out there and play, but does that sound overly daunting to you?
No, right? So that was my only.
You got to go play the games, but
Yeah, so like my thing was like, obviously it's terrible news going into it, playing like an all-star, him, coming back from the injury already and then just re-aggravating it, worst thing you can possibly do. But if the Lakers were given anything, they're giving a easier schedule over the essentially next month or so. Yes, you have to go play the games, but if there was a chance for you guys to still stay in contention, you're 20-10 right now, and you stay within that 10 games above 500, right? So it means you're playing 500 ball without Austin Reaves. I think you could play a little better than 500 ball against matchups because you still got LeBron and you still got Luka. And I think this will separate whether or not Luka will get MVP this year. Because I think he's getting contention. Obviously, he's going to probably lead the league in scoring, but he doesn't get MVP unless the Lakers are top 4. I mean, likely top 3, at least a top 4 seed in the NBA. So, what are your thoughts on that? Is Luka going to step up to the point where this will be his MVP chunk of the season?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely putting up the points for it. Obviously, I think Lakers will have to absolutely have a top, 3 to 4 seed for him to have a chance. We'll see kind of with the Jokic, injury potential, right? What it does in the MVP race. Other than that, I mean, don't just thinking, right? Like, I don't think anybody in the East kind of has a chance over Luka as long as it stays the same. Obviously, there's the SGA, right? Right? I mean, San Antonio, if Wemby's been out for a bit. So, yeah, I mean, this is a good time and probably the best time for him to kind of start the choo-choo train, Luka Doncic for MVP campaign in the month of January without Austin Reaves, right? And so, yeah, I think it's a great chance. Now, would I like a healthy Laker team in coming into this January stretch? Of course, because that means we can do business. We can get to work, and maybe at the end of this be 5 games or 15 games above 500 or so, right? And that would be pretty solid. But that being said, yeah, I think it's time for Luka, and I know he had his leg contusion, and it's just been left and right, just bumps and bruises for everyone. But yeah, obviously Austin Reaves, it's a big blow. We've had so many conversations about that calf type of injury and coming back too soon, and to know when it is too soon and not too soon. It's just kind of sucks. But yeah, as you mentioned, you expect him to be out a bit, and we'll see. Yeah. We'll see how the Lakers do.
Yeah, and I was looking at timeline right now, and he's going to be reevaluated in a month. So that's looking at, you're already up to what, Saturday, January 24th, which would be Dallas. Monday, January 26th, that's Chicago. He's not coming back there, right? So then you go, okay, say he gets another week or two, and then you're almost getting into, when you get into the 2 weeks after that, you're pretty much getting into All-Star break, right? So you'll have about 3 games. When it gets to that 6-week mark, you'll have about 3 games before the All-Star break. Might be one of those where, all right, these are the 3 games. We can introduce him. He'll be on a minute restriction, kind of coming off the bench, get his minutes up. And then he has that break for the All-Star break, about a week, and then kind of get back into the groove of things for the second part of the season. Or, if everything's not working as well, he's not healing as well, just holding him out throughout All-Star game, and that gives you a solid 2 months, essentially, of healing for Austin Reaves before he comes back.
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, the Lakers have kind of earned the even though we've been talking a lot about them, they've kind of earned the wins that they have so far. And this is why you kind of have to have these like quick starts, because when you have a little bit of a weird stretch, you're like, hey, you look up and you're still 10 games above 500, right? Versus like kind of the last few seasons, you're just sputtering around 500, right? So if Lakers were 16-14 right now, or 13-17 or whatever, it would just like be daunting. And so yeah, it's interesting. The schedule is like, so they have a road game February 3rd, and they're not on the road until February 26th. And so obviously that's a lot of home games, and then it's the All-Star break too. But it's just kind of interesting how that is playing out. Yeah, February 26th at Phoenix. I mean, Jesus, how many times are they play Phoenix? It just feels like, and then Phoenix, of course, is like, I wish I was wrong. I mean, they've been pretty solid, and they've been kind of a pest, for the Lakers. Lakers got fortunate to beat them one game, right? Like kind of got a little fortunate at the end of one, and just really, if Phoenix took it to them the other 2 games. And so, but yeah, anyways, Lakers, just take your time again. Got to get healthy, at least by mid-February, early March,
So it'll be interesting whether or not Austin Reaves comes back to a completely different team when he gets back, or because I'll pretty much be where the trade deadline is. Likely he's going to be back maybe before or after the trade deadline. So it's going to be pretty close when he kind of comes back there.
Will Austin Reaves be? Will he play another game on the Lakers?
Don't you dare! Don't you dare! Don't you dare do that stuff, Eric. We're not talking about that. But yeah, could it be trade bait? Could it not? Could it be in the honest trade?
He's their best asset for sure. Okay. Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, if it's
you never know. We did have a February to remember last year. So you never know what's going to happen in this NBA. So, but nonetheless, let's also have Rui Hachimura, who is going to be out tomorrow with they're called calf soreness, right? Another calf.
Another one.
Yeah, Luka getting leg contusion. He's out around his calf. Austin with the calf. Rui had a groin injury, and now he has a calf. So I think they're probably going to be as cautious as possible because they don't want to see their Austin Reaves situation. So you might see him out for a couple more games than usual, just on the soreness, making sure that this is not a strain. That's number one priority. So I could see him being out a week or even a little bit more time if he needs it.
Do you think? Well, I guess the question is, the answer is probably yes. Because now hindsight's 2020. I mean, it seems like he kind of rushed back too soon.
Oh, Austin Reaves? Yeah, 100%. I know they probably won't say it, but they won't admit it. And it could have been Austin Reaves saying, "I want to play. I feel good," right?
Yeah.
But this early in the season, I think the pressure got to him. The pressure got to the Lakers. They were kind of on this downward spiral. Like, hey, let's get him back in some capacity. I was surprised that they didn't go along the lines of Wemby when they brought him back, because Wemby was out for a while with his calf injury, but they brought him up. We brought Wemby off the bench. Is he still coming off the bench, by the way?
I know. I was like, I'm like, wait a second. Oh, they played today. I'll check while you're.
Assuming he's still starting, but they were very cautious about bringing Wemby back. Brought him off the bench. Literally played in the NBA Cup in the semifinals. He
started today.
Only played 15, 20 minutes. Played off the bench for at least another 2 weeks. And so they were pretty cautious about that. Austin Reaves came off the bench in that Phoenix game and literally just started the next game like nothing was going on, like everything felt great. I think that was kind of where, if they had any slight, that's the biggest issue, was just trying to bring him back a little bit too soon in that fashion there.
Yeah. It was probably a mixture of him, saying he's good to go, and just the kind of way they've been playing, and they probably just figured anything they can get from him is a big help. But you could tell, like, because he played in the Houston game, right? He played the first half. He just wasn't the same, and so I don't know. I don't know if he would have sat like 2 more weeks, it would have saved him. I guess technically 2 to 3 weeks that he's going to miss in addition to the 2 weeks he was going to miss. Perhaps we'll never know, but I think this time around they're probably going to be ultra cautious around this particular injury.
Yes, for sure. All right, so let's get to the biggest news of the day. Nikola Jokic was injured today, left today's game with a knee injury. If you are watching live, I'm going to show the injury right now and kind of discuss it, talk about it, because the Nuggets have not said anything about it so far. They just pretty much said he's out the game. He was questionable and then never returned. So here's the injury right here.
Locker room, that was an ominous sight to see Jokic hobble out halfway through this game to the Denver locker room.
So as you can see, one of his players kind of fell into his foot, which caused his left knee to hyperextend, basically posterior to the back. Now, the one thing you can't see necessarily in that angle is whether or not there's any rotational component to it. I did see a couple different angles, and it looked like the knee just went straight back into that posterior direction. So I tend to be a little bit more optimistic when I see a straight hyperextension, and you can't tell if there's any rotational component, but it doesn't look as much on the camera. Now, we did get a comment on here from, let's see, different moves. I think Jokic tore his ACL. Now, there's 2 scenarios here, and I would weigh them as, one is more of a best case scenario, one is the worst case scenario. And to me, when you see these hyperextension injuries, like you can date back to Giannis was in the finals, or right before the finals in the playoffs, he had a terrible looking hyperextension injury, and it ended up being just more of basically that joint capsule being stretched. He probably had a little bit of bone bruise in there too. But it wasn't any structural damage with the ligaments. And he was able to return to the finals. I don't think he played game 1 against Phoenix, but he played game 2, right? And that was one of the major ones we've seen. We've seen Anthony Davis, as Laker fans, we've seen him hyperextend his knee at least 4 or 5 times when he was on the Lakers. They ended up being okay. We've seen Embiid do that. And he didn't tear his ACL. He's had some meniscus stuff, but he's had some hyperextensions where he was able to return from that. So that's the kind of like, all right, optimistic side where hopefully it's just a hyperextension injury. That's more the mechanism, but the injury would be possibly like a joint capsule stretching or just kind of stretch onto the capsule. And or usually the bone bruise comes with that as well. And that's where it maybe takes them out a little more time than normal if there's just nothing going on. I do have a bone bruise that usually maybe takes like a couple weeks to kind of heal and kind of get back to everything. It's more of a pain tolerance issue. Worst case scenario is if there's a little bit of rotational component there, I've got the ACL, right? Because you get that glide of the stretch into the side, and if that tibia just goes forward a little bit too much, stretches out the ACL, that's when you'd worry. That's when he's out for the season. That's when it's a major problem for Denver. I think number one, the main reason why they're being quiet right now is that they have to do an MRI. Have to figure out if there's any structural damage. I think they have good sense, just based on skills, clinical skills, if he had a torn ACL. That stuff might have leaked. You might have heard some rumors. You might have heard some reporters talking about it, but so far it's tight-lipped. There hasn't been much going on with that. So what are your thoughts, Eric, on the injury and potential Joker missing any time?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was probably the biggest news of the night. I'm sure if we had gotten an idea of if it was really bad, we probably would have let off with it. But that being said, it could be like just one of two things, right? Be like obviously terrible for him and the Nuggets, or something minor. And so yeah, it's interesting. We haven't heard much. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but if a lot of times when it is bad, you do hear some leaks, as you said, like, hey, it's just not looking good, or there's great concern, there's a tear, or what have you. And so I remember Luka Doncic, he got like during his when he was playing in the summer, he had somebody fall into his leg, right? And it kind of
bingo.
Yeah, it kind of got us all worked up on a Saturday morning or whatever that was. About if
forgot about that.
Continue to play, right? And so obviously he escaped without anything major. And so for the Nuggets and the Jokers and NBA fans' sake, hopefully it's that. I don't know. You've seen like ACL injuries where it's like, oh man, it doesn't look that bad, or they're not like pounding the floor, but then you have seen it where they have like been overly like in pain. And so obviously we can go back and forth and talk about like the effect it's going to have, but until we find out, it's going to be we'll see. But I imagine he'll miss a little time regardless, right? And so they already are without I think Aaron Gordon, I think Braun, right? I think
Chris Braun.
I think
Cam Johnson missed the game or two.
Cam Johnson got injured too. I mean, talk about injuries. They've been still getting some W's, right? And so, but I think we'll all wait in anticipation. Definitely different moves. Thinks he tore it. Hopefully he didn't, though.
Yeah. On the lines of, them usually, in a lot of pain or sometimes not in a lot of pain. I will say one thing, just anecdotally. A lot of times it can look worse, right? Like these hyperextensions look really bad, but they're not as bad of an injury. And they're kind of riling in pain, and you see him like, grab the knee, have a really sound reaction. A lot of times some of those injuries aren't as bad as all of a sudden you see somebody when they have a look of concern on their face, like immediately, like when they're on the ground and they're just like looking like if they tore their Achilles, they just know it, right? They're just looking like, dang it, I know something happened. They know they might have heard a pop in their knee, and they're just emotionally already just like drained. Because one thing that happens, so when you fully tear your ACL, you initially have pain like for a quick second, and then you don't have as much pain right after that. So then the emotional stuff kind of sets in because you rip the pain fibers essentially. Now, when you have a hyperextension where you're stretching the capsule, you're going to feel that, and it's going to be super painful, and it's going to be hard to walk on. So that's why you see when Joker left the game, he could barely put any weight on it, right? And then you can see people there, they ACL, sometimes they just walk off the field, right? It's like in football where you're like, dude, just walked off the field. There's no issues, right? So I would say, like, sometimes when you see somebody who's kind of limping off like that, in pain, and then you gather the video evidence of like what type of injury it was, I'm a little more optimistic that it's not long-term type of injury. I'm hoping, right? I mean, I can't guarantee it, and I've never seen. I haven't seen it in person or anything like that, but just based on the feedback and kind of the experience of doing this over the amount of years I have. So, hopefully it's not too bad and it's nothing serious, because the NBA does not want that. We don't want that. We need Joker in the NBA for the season and also in the playoffs.
Yeah. Once you start kind of hoping for that stuff, obviously it's terrible because your own favorite player, it's going to happen to them. Obviously they're definitely a contender in terms of like everybody else other than OKC, with like the Lakers and Spurs and Rockets. So, but yeah, I'm just wondering, I mean, do you think like, is there possible that there's like middle ground with this? I mean, do you think it's either the worst or he's going to be out a week or two? I mean, is it something that's like, hey, oh shoot, he might be on the shelf, 6 weeks or whatever? I know it's tough to say probably, but
yeah, I think it's on like cut dry, right? So he's either going to be where the MRI is clean and he's kind of day to day, but likely the day to day means he's going to miss a week or two, or he's like out for the season. Like I don't. Well, let me take that back. If it's serious bone bruise, then that's going to take some time to heal. So that could be a month. It could be like 4 to 6 weeks in that range. So that could be kind of like the middle ground there. But if it's obviously something like an ACL, then he's gonna be out for the season. I think I can rule out like any of the MCL or the side ligaments, MCL, LCL, things like that. Sometimes the PCL, which is the posterior ligament out behind there, can get injured on a hyperextension injury. That's usually injured when somebody's knees flex and the knee hits the ground. That usually causes ACL injury. So you see that a lot more in football. When a quarterback hits their knee on the ground, or some football player gets their knee drove into the ground, you see a little bit more of that. Doesn't happen as often with hyperextension, but can, right? So I think there could be a little middle ground there where it's like a bone bruise or a PCL injury. That could be where he's out for like that month, 4 to 6 weeks type of time frame. And then I think there's like the day to day, which is likely a week or two from the hyperextension, and then there's like the extreme, which would be the ACL.
Yeah. I was like just thinking, it obviously a totally different time. Remember, like Shaq. I was just looking at my phone trying to like his first couple years on the Lakers. He hurt his knee, and I remember obviously it wasn't like an ACL tear, or else he would have missed, the season or something, but he missed. I was looking at it. Yeah, he missed about like 8 to 10 weeks. Obviously, the different body frame and all that stuff. Well, I mean, they're both big guys, but he had a fracture, a partial MCL tear, and a capsule tear, and so he missed about 10 weeks in February of '97. I just kind of recall that. I'm like, yeah, I remember he. I was like, oh, that's right. I think it was the first year that he was on the Lakers. He missed,
that had to be his first year, right?
Yeah, because he signed in this. Yeah, because he signed the summer of '96.
97.
So yeah, he basically, yeah, exactly. So he, so obviously, like when he, I remember he had like a knee brace or something when he came back. But obviously different types of players, and Shaq was a big boy, and so was Luka. So not Luka, Joker is too. But I imagine at the very least, a couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
Lakers do play the Nuggets in a few weeks. We'll have to see if he's healthy for that one, but I'm sure we'll find out in the morning.
Yeah, likely we'll find out tomorrow morning when they kind of come out with their report. I don't think they'll say anything tonight. But
probably not.
So that kind of wraps up the injury section. And the NBA has been super busy with injuries this year. It's been a lot of soft tissue stuff, a lot of major injuries to major players, and hopefully we can get some health here kind of moving forward.
Yeah, hopefully, man.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to our last topic. And are these Spurs? So, I mean, obviously, we haven't been on for the last couple of weeks. We kind of talked about that in the beginning of the show. But since we have been on, have the Spurs essentially beat OKC 3 times? I think so, right? Or I think they beat them one early when we were already there. No, but the last 2 times. Or no, they're 3 times.
I think it's been 3 times. Yeah, it's been 3 times for sure.
Yeah. So, are these Spurs for real, Eric? And I don't mean just like, are they a good team? Obviously, they're a good team.
Yeah.
But can they win the NBA title?
I mean, I had some high hopes. So obviously, this is probably the worst time to talk about them. They've just lost 2 in a row at home against Utah and Cleveland. Cleveland, obviously not having a really good season at all. But man, I'm just thinking, if the Lakers had beaten OKC Thunder 3 times, like in the last 10 days or whatever, I think we would be we would be pounding our chests, and it would be like
the
all
best
over
team in the world.
Exactly, right? There's one team that's the Thunder's kryptonite is the Lakers or whatever. So, that being said, I mean, it is pretty impressive. I think, I think last time we spoke, we thought OKC was definitely on the way to, breaking the record, or at least maybe just tying Golden State's record. And now they have 5 losses, 3 of them coming to Oklahoma City, as I said, in literally, I think the past 2 weeks. And so, yeah, I think I still think they're more like the Thunder of 2 years ago and the Rockets of last year, where they're going to kind of run into San Antonio is going to play Denver, for example, in the playoffs, right? And assuming Denver's healthy, they're going to kind of, it's going to be tough to beat them. And so I still see him as a high, the conference finals being their ceiling. But man, they do have it all in terms of, other than experience. So that's big. It's big in the playoffs. They have the defense, athleticism, the star power, but it also depends on Wemby if he can stay healthy. We've seen him in and out, right? Last year, obviously for particular reasons. And then I think the year before his rookie year, they shut him down, right? That's from what I recall. But I think it's up to his health. But man, they are a fun team, and they're obviously overachieving, and they've lost a couple of games in a row here. They probably were kind of on their high horse, after beating OKC 3 times. And I think they were probably believing maybe that they were a contender. But yeah, I think you got to put them up there with that, next tier of teams. And if they play the Thunder in the playoffs, I mean, there's got to be some confidence there, right? If anything else, there's got to be confidence. And so I think they're the one team that could, I don't want to say one team, but one of the teams that can match up with OKC, just with that kind of athleticism, young, defensive minded. But yeah, they're looking good. But again, even though I'm, riding high on them, I still kind of see them as if they get to the Western Conference Finals, that'll be a bit of a surprise.
So a little bit of fool's gold for you with these Spurs.
It's tough to say. I like them, but we'll see.
I agree, because one thing we talked about them being the OKC 2 years ago. I like the Rockets from last year, right? Like that, they're the next up and coming team, but I just don't think their time is here. The only difference, though, I will say, with the Spurs compared to those OKC teams of 2-3 years ago, is that Wemby is a different beast. He emotionally is a motivator to his team, like physically just being a beast on the court, being an alien, but like emotionally, you see him charged up. You see him cheering his team on. You see him screaming when he catches like when they won the NBA, they beat OKC in that game, and see the emotion of him when they miss a free throw, right? He's screaming at the ball. Like, he's a little bit different of a leader than SGA. SGA is really quiet, right? He leads by example. He's got that charisma, like, he's doing those interviews, kind of bringing his team along. He has his team right on his back. But I feel like Wemby, the guy that can get you over the hump earlier. And so that could be one thing that I'd be a little scared if I'm OKC, because number one, they have your number. Number two, I don't think you guys could stop Wemby if he's playing full minutes in a playoff game. Like, he takes advantage of Chet. Like, it's not even a close match between him and Chet, right? So I think that's an issue for them. And Hartenstein really can't stay with Wemby. He can give him a little bit more physicality, but I don't think anybody in the NBA really has a person that can guard Wemby. However, I think he is taking advantage of OKC, and they have a great defense, right? So he's found a way to kind of break that team defense that they have. So that could be one thing. If they meet in the playoffs, that's a pretty scary thing. So I think there's definitely some confidence there. I still in kind of wait and see mode. I want to see a little bit more. I want to see this past 30 games. I want to see what this looks like at game 75. What does it look like at game 77, right? I want to see where they're at there. And see if that confidence is still there. And if they're still a top 2 team there, that's scary times. Scary.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're 23-9, so really good, really good start. And so I think the third game was what really did it for me, So I was like, okay, first game was in Vegas, right? As part of the NBA Cup. It was competitive. It came down to the last second. And then the second game was in San Antonio. It's like, hey, it's in San Antonio. It's on the road. It's a tough place to play. But when San Antonio went into OKC Christmas Day and really put a spanking on them, where you would know OKC had to have been like, we got to get up for this. Like, we got to put a stop to this. We just got beat twice. And to lose again, that's what kind of made me start to think, like, obviously I just alluded to it. I don't know if they're going to be a contender, but it just made me think that that's probably a matchup that OKC probably would not like to see, because they just have everything that kind of potentially that OKC has, and other than Wemby. And so, it's going to be tough, man. Being in the West, it's going to be tough beating these Spurs and OKC teams, in the years to come. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Wild West, man. It's going to be an epic showdown over the next couple months. I think now that football is, they're getting into the last week of the season, you're going to get into playoffs. Ooh. By February, you got the Super Bowl, and then you know what happens after that. It's all NBA from there. Yep. The teams kind of dial in a little bit better after Super Bowl. I think it's like that lag of not being as important, right, in the grand scheme of sports, right? And then as football ends, the NBA stars start ramping it up, the teams start ramping it up, and we get a lot of commotion with all the trades and things like that. So I think we got a lot going to look forward to in the NBA, kind of moving forward. A lot of young teams, a lot of talent, kind of up in the air for anybody to win it this year, which is exciting. And yeah, OKC is not going to break the record now since they lost. You can't lose 3 games to the same damn team and still be trying to make a record for the season. So probably shouldn't have talked about it too much, SGA. I remember him in that press conference said, yeah, we're looking to break the record, essentially saying that. Yeah, we're trying to win every game. Which, once you start looking at records, that's when there's a problem. So
yeah, I think when they're, 20-something and 1, you're just taking things for granted because you're like, man, like, when are they going to lose? But like, to lose only 9 games is obviously super hard and super impressive. So if you lose a couple of games, you're like already losing pace. And you still got like some tough ones, right? They're still going to play Denver a few times, play Houston a few times, Lakers a couple of times, some of those teams on the road on the East, right? And so it was going to be hard, and they still technically have a chance, but I'm pretty sure the Thunder will settle for, 65 wins and first seed in the West and try to repeat as champions.
Yeah, 100%. All right, Eric. So you got anything else to kind of wrap up this show?
No. As far as the show, it's obviously kind of good to get on, and I think we went longer than normal just because we didn't talk for a while, and so we had to talk a little about a lot of things, a lot of injuries, and obviously we didn't even get to talk about football at all, which is going to be getting to the most exciting time of the year, which is the playoffs. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about that next week or so. But yeah, that's about it, man.
Yeah, it's good to be back. And if you guys missed in the beginning, kind of talked about why we were gone for this past couple of weeks. This show is dedicated to my mom. She unexpectedly passed away, and it was good to just get this distraction, kind of get back to some of the stuff we've been doing, we've been building with this podcast. And going to dedicate this podcast, dedicate everything I kind of do moving forward to her. She was my foundation. She was a physician. She's why I'm doing what I'm as a doctor of physical therapy. And I'll be forever grateful for having her as my mom. But thank you guys for allowing me to talk about her and kind of be on this platform. Thank you, Eric, for being here. Appreciate it, brother. It's all love.
Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, it's if it hurts one of us, it hurts us all. We got a tight knit, close friends and everything. So yeah, it was good to definitely, as we said, good to jump on, and this is an honor to do this show with in her honor as well. And so it's kind of see what happens going forward in the fun world of sports and basketball. But it has been real.
All right, it's been real. We'll be back on soon, minus kind of the holiday stuff, but we'll have a show coming up pretty soon for you guys. Probably talk about a little bit of football, a little bit of basketball, and kind of get in there. All right, you guys.
Yes, sir.
Peace out from the Hoops Rehab team. And Mom, love you. Take care.
Love you. Happy New Year, guys.